Good morning. Welcome to another day of paradise, right? I hope you guys are having a good day. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting this new table. It wiggles. Also, I hope you had a great week as well. I know that this week has been for me a little interesting. I just so y'all know, whenever we say things on here, just believe me, we have to either practice what we preach or we've already gone through it. So, just know that we're in this together, okay? And last week, it was just waiting the right way. I hope that you got to, obviously when you ask God to help you have patience, He's going to not give you the patience. He's going to give you opportunity to develop patience. That's the way God works, I think. And I'm not, the smartest person on live right now, but I know my experience and He's given me opportunities. So with that said, He gave me opportunities this week to wait well. Remember I said, if you're tired, and it says God will renew your strength, when you wait well, I think I did okay. I mean, I had a prayer request, and it's been an ongoing since January prayer, and I brought in some troops, and I said I need prayer, and actually, that answer needs to be today. Otherwise, it's pretty major if it doesn't get answered. So we prayed, and lo and behold, God did an amazing thing, and something happened and remarkable for some people that I completely love. But then there was this situation where I still don't have an answer on something, and God just said to me, hey, if I don't answer it, are you going to still trust me? And that was the hardest one. But I said, yes, I do, because I love God very much, and I think you guys know that, and that's why we do this. So anyway, so I know we had a lot of shares last week. I don't think we hit the 15 mark, but just remember the share button is I'm pretty sure on your left. So all you have to do is go click, share. That's it. It's encouraging. It's good. And the whole world needs to know some goodness right now, because it's not always good news out there. We're hot today. I hope y'all are okay and your electricity didn't go out on you too. It's just there's so much energy in Southern California, and I know I'm not a newscaster right now. But I would be a fun one, you have to admit. So, okay. Today, it's funny, I keep hearing that fall's coming, and we are holding on to that pumpkin spice latte. We are holding on to that cinnamon candle. We are holding on to, yes, finally a season change. And then you have that idea, but what happens for Halloween for trick-or-treating? Are we going to do that? I don't know. And some of us are saying, hey, 2020 can go bye-bye. Bye. And I get it. I do. But the funny thing is my scripture today, I'm going to read it to you, and some of it's going to be hard because it was hard for me to get this scripture. But when you read scripture, it's almost supposed to convict you. It's not supposed to go, ooh, boom, that was for me. The joy of the Lord will be my strength, and that's great. But, He can dig sometimes and say, you need to change this, and how about this too? So just remember, it's good for us. It helps us grow. We never want to be the same, okay? So here's your scripture today. Look it up, write it down. Philippians 3:13 through 14, okay? And it says, one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead. I press towards the goal. All right, so back up. Let's read that one more time. One thing I do is I forget those things which are behind. Now, a lot of us are like, hallelujah, because 2020 was tough, and I'd like to move on and forget it and stuff like that. But let me challenge you on what he also means. He also means our misery, forget it. Move forward. Come on. You had it rough. And trust me, we've had it rough. I had to be serious for a moment. You guys have all prayed for Dwight Edgar, And that is one of my closest friends' dads. And that was rough this week, because at the same time I'm praying for a miracle on something else, and then that too, he had passed away. And that is rough. She is very close to her dad. So yes, we want to forget that misery, but she's not going to forget the memories, amazing and wonderful memories. But anyway, going back to what we said, thank you for your prayers, but just be praying for that family. I mean, that's a lot to lose right now. And they're a wonderful family, wonderful. So God says, yeah, forget the misery, like push forward, learn, grow. And also, this is where it gets weird. Okay, he also, I believe he wants us to have good memories, but also forget a little bit about the good old days, the good times. He wants us to push forward to more good times. So even though you've had, some bad times, and that's easier to forget, kinda. Sometimes it's always stuck in our head and our heart. But he also wants us to move past the idea of, I know this is going to be hard, but when we go back into society, I'm going to say it that way, it will not be the same ever again. Ever. And so the good old times basically are done too. And that's okay. Because the thing is every time, you got to look through life like a child. You really do. You got to ask questions like a child. I remember my daughter being on the playground, and she'd come right up and go, "Hi, what's your name?" And she goes, "Want to play?" That's looking for it through a child's eyes. And the compassion that my kids had for other kids, and wanting to be closer to them because they needed a friend or whatever. But to be a child and learn like a child just means that you're going to be creative and you're going to be excited. And that's what God wants us to have, like a childlike faith. So yeah, some things were good, but now it's time to move past. And every time, say you try it, I'm going to show you how we're going to do this, and it's just going to be really easy. You think right now, well, you're in a place where sometimes it's like, there is nothing new, nothing's open, nothing blah, 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 blah. I get it. It's tough. And sometimes familiar is good too. So we're going to look through this through a child's eyes. When we taught kids, we taught them a lot of new foods. They taught us a lot of new foods. So I know every one of you at least goes to the grocery store or orders online food at least once a week. So I did the same. I know Bailey's go to the grocery store, and I gotta tell you, it is hard to find something that we haven't tried, because we do love food. We do love experiencing things. But I want you to put this in terms of, when you love learning about new foods, you also love learning about new people, new ideas, new characteristics. Be like a child, because believe me, through this pandemic and through what we've been going through, if I talk to different people that are not my way of thinking, I'm like, oh, here it goes. They've actually opened my eyes up to thinking different. And I love that. I love meeting new people, and I love new foods. So I want you guys to try something. So I'm going to do it first for you. And here it goes. All right, so we gotta hurry because I don't want to take all my husband's time. Okay, so this one I have to say was interesting. It's called a tattoo brand, hot sauce Scotch bonnet curry. Never tried it, so I'll do it first. Ready? I didn't have a spoon. Interesting. I'm going to just say that. Woo! Spicy, for sure. Water. I'm just telling you, if you get out there and meet new people and new foods, it's going to be interesting. Or it's going to be pleasant. So I don't know. Let's try this one. All right, this is a drink. It says it's an iced tea, no sugar. Whoa, holy cow. There's sugar in that. They lied. It says sugar-free. They lied. Okay, so sugar. But it's good. It's actually good, you know. And this one. Ugh. See, I was honest. I didn't try it before I went on here. So, you know, the option is I could lose my, you know, I might have a gag reflex. We'll see. All right. This one is bacon and cheddar Cheez-Its. Okay. And so, bacon first. Not a lot of bursting flavor of bacon, but not bad. I've always wanted to do a Food Network show, so this is exciting. All right. And cheddar, which is the familiar one, but putting it together, it's interesting. Not bad, but I kind of like it. I might even start drinking this and having this on my little snack table. Not so much. So the thing is, be curious, be a kid. Don't forget that. I hope you've learned that in the last couple weeks. Is if try new foods, try new interesting people, and leave the old behind, because to be honest, it's not going to happen. You know that, because our world is ever changing, and every time you try something new, it just might stick to you and you'll love it. So anyway, enjoy my husband today. Okay? All right. Have a good day. Love you guys.
Well, good morning. I never get much response back from you guys whenever I say that, or Leah says good morning to you, so maybe you could put in a little comment, good morning to us at this time. I do see that in the very beginning, when you guys are logging on, that there's a lot of people that put in little comments that say good morning, and I mentioned this last week. Again, not everybody watches this live. This last week, we hit 399 views by today. On last week's video. And what's cool though is that even though it's not live, people can still add conversation and comments. And so I would highly recommend, because we share it on the wall, I highly recommend that you go back and look at it. You can fast forward through us. You don't have to listen to us all over again. But you can see the comments that are being made, and there's a lot of comments that are coming in from our young people and from just different ones that are watching. And so again, I want to just say that we really appreciate each one of you and what you're taking the time to do this. And again, we have friends and family from all over that are watching this. I have family that watches this in Alaska. Hey, Asher, buddy, that's one of my family members that likes his big family when he gets to see them. So anyway, just again want to say thank you to you all. Wanted to just take a moment and just say thank you. I believe Tracy is watching, but handwritten letter. Leah was talking about old things and new things, and so what's really cool is this is almost so not used to it being done in my life. You could say it's an old thing, but the truth is it's like a new thing to me, because it was a great way that Tracy spent some time just to reach out to us and say thank you, and just saying that she's trying to remain positive. I noticed I got a comment from Amy and Paul Cochran. Amy was reaching out to Leah saying, hey, we need a new devotional to do together as a husband and a wife. And so they picked up a new devotional that they're doing. I believe it's the same one that Leah and I are working on right now and reading together. I know Diane and Tim just commented about, ever since we kind of challenged them to do so, they've been doing it as well. Just a lot going on. And we could just sit here and kind of talk about kind of the newscast, so to speak, of what's happening in our lives. Kids going back to school. I hope you guys had a good week. I'm sure there were new learning curves that you're trying to figure out through this online teaching and everything. But I just want to just kind of come back and talk again about kind of this idea of what we've been doing with perspective, and want to kind of hinge on that a little bit, but I want to tie in some new focus to that. And a few weeks ago, I brought up Ecclesiastes, and again, Ecclesiastes is a book in the Bible that was written by, according to the Bible, the wisest man that ever was and ever will be. And he writes about all these things that he sees under the sun. And then he ends the book by simply saying, when you really look at your life through the lens of what has been accomplished, then you realize that there are things that are very valuable to you in the sense of memories and in the sense of what it meant to you at the time. But when it's all said and done, he says the most important thing is to trust God. And I wanted to just kind of talk about that for a second, because when we talk about this idea of trust, or I want to use another word that we're going to tie with trust, in order to really trust somebody, you have to develop confidence in them. One of the reasons why a lot of people have learned to trust Leah and I with talking with us about issues in their life is because we have allowed them to put their confidence in us, and we've not betrayed that confidence. We have done our best to value not only what they're going through or their perspective, but also to be secret about what it is that they came to us about. And I know you guys, every one of us, have friends and relationships where you know what it is with the people that you can trust, and quite frankly, we know people that we can't really trust. And I would rather spend more time probably with the people that I trust than the people that I don't. You're probably likewise in that. But I want to talk about, again, this confidence, and how do we get confidence when it comes to God? Because a lot of times we think about what we're praying about, what we're asking God for, and sometimes it just seems like his delay is longer than we can bear. And as that happens, we begin to start to lose a little bit of trust. Let's just be honest for a second. I mean, if we're living in a real world, then sometimes when the prayers don't go the way, or the thoughts don't go the way that we were expecting them to, it can seem like, well, why did you do that? I read an article this week, and I tried to go back and find it again because I don't know who said this, so I feel bad not giving the individual credit for this. Just take it to say that I didn't come up with this on my own. I'm not that smart. But he was making just an argument, and he said, if you and I were God right now, and that's a scary thought, it just said, if you and I were God right now, there is no prayer that we would answer differently than he does right now. And that really struck me, because it gives us a deeper challenge, is the right word there, of our perspective of how we see things, and obviously how God sees things. And his argument is that if you and I knew what God knows now, we wouldn't answer our prayer any differently than he currently is answering our prayer, because we would get it too. And so we have to come back to this point of, well, okay, when God doesn't answer the things the way we want, and some of us are thinking, man, there's been groups of people praying that this, pandemic thing, this coronavirus would, shrivel up and die. We were hoping that the hot summer, we're going through a heat wave. Yesterday, our electricity went off, and it wasn't even for a few minutes, and our house got hot fast. And some of us are, don't even have an air conditioner, and just are bearing through it. And it's just, right now I'm seeing one of my neighbors go running by, and it's already over 100 degrees outside. I wouldn't be running in this if you were trying to chase me to kill me. I'd just let you take over anyway. You get the point? But I think that what we need to understand as we look at this part of life of what we're praying for and what we're asking each other for and asking God for, I just think that we've got to come back to this point where we really can be confident that God knows what he's doing, and that God is going to bring things together for good. And it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, may not be exactly in the time frame that we want, but the day's going to come. So I want to kind of talk about where some of my confidence comes from, why I kind of feel that way. When I was a little boy, one of the things that my parents, instilled in me was I don't know where it really came from, but I just kind of fell in love with reading, and my parents really encouraged me in doing memorization. And one of the verses that really stood out to me when I was younger is a verse that's found in Hebrews. Again, a letter written to the Hebrew people, the Jews, and about their life and their life before God, and how to live in the world that's around them. Kind of practical information for us. How do we live in the world that we're in right now? What makes us different in our expressions and our attitudes and the feelings that we have? And so the writer to Hebrews says, "So do not throw away this confident trust in the Lord." And it's just period. Sometimes we read the full verse and we don't take the time kind of digest it. So I want to just focus on that one more time. It just says, so do not throw away this confident trust in the Lord. And then he goes on, he says, remember the great reward it brings you. A great reward that is brought to us when we know that God is in control. And I understand that when there are things that happen, it can seem like, God, I don't understand why that happened. It seems like, why was not my way the best way? Why was it that this had to go a different way? Well, one of the things that I have come to learn, because again, the writer of Hebrews goes on and he says, patient endurance is what you need now, so that you and I will continue to do God's will. And then it says, then you're going to receive all that he's promised. Patient endurance. That's what the world needs right now. You know, we're going into a time of voting, and I know there's a lot of people that, you know, we're starting to see political debates. We're starting to, you know, read about different candidates and find out about the people that are going to be running for offices, and we're reading about laws and petitions, and we're reading about all this stuff. But I think that one of the things that we need to remind ourselves is we need to endure patiently. We need to look at things and be careful with our perspective and talk about them, but talk about them in a way that we're willing to listen and learn. I think that, you know, when we come to the table and we understand that we may not all agree on the same things, the one thing that I think we can all agree on is that all of us, at the heart of what's really going on, we want what's best. And maybe what we think is going to be best may be different than what somebody else thinks is best. But again, what do we really want? We want what's best. And so we need to focus and do our best to move about in this new world, in this new world order, so to speak, on how we can try to navigate to make this place a better place. And that's not to say that we're going to get rid of all these struggles and difficulties and hardships, because otherwise we made Jesus a liar, because he flat out said, in this world you will have trouble. And so guess what? He was right. In this world we have trouble. But I wanted to just think about this in kind of just practical terms. And so one of the things that again, I read is that it just simply says that Christianity isn't a pursuit of your destiny. It's a pursuit of being like Jesus. And so I think that is, to me, was just kind of hit me strong this week, because it's like, okay, sometimes I want to think about my destiny. I want to think about my future. I want to think about all these, you know, practical sides of what it is that I'm looking at and what I want for my family, what I want. But it's a lot of what I want, and then it comes back to, but what I really should want is to do my best to live with my fellow man the way they would recognize that Jesus would have interacted with them. That's a tall call. A tall call. So remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago. It doesn't matter if the cup is half full or half empty. It's our responsibility to fill it back up. That's ultimately what I believe this pursuit of trying to be in the nature of what we see in the person of Christ. And we see Jesus moving in and out among people and taking care of what they were dealing with at the time. And I even mentioned this, you know, sometimes we are used to trying to be quick to have, you know, oh, I need the right verse to say to somebody. No, you really don't, because Jesus even showed an example that he did more storytelling and was more relatable to people just with the experiences that they were experiencing together in that moment in life. And so I just would encourage you, don't worry about what it is that you're going to say, but kind of like Leah made the illustration about our daughter Jessica, when she was going through cancer, she had her little port where they were doing all of her chemotherapy through and just all this stuff. And yet Jessica was quick to go up to another child on the playground. Hey, I'm Jessica. You want to play? And I watched that happen just this last week. Josh and I went out and had a cup of coffee, and it's kind of interesting to watch kids right now, because, you know, kids are really the ones that have taken the brunt of really how things have changed for them, not being allowed to go to school and be with their buddies and their friends. And so I watched one little boy that was at this place that we were at, and I mean, he was like running up to any kid that was there, and he's like, hi. And you know, what if that was us? Sometimes I think the thing that keeps us from just interacting with people that way is sometimes we're just too doggone preoccupied with what we're thinking about. And sometimes we need to just put down our preoccupation with just about us and start thinking about what it is with the people that are around us. Lee and I, really only shop. There's one store that we go to just because we've kind of felt safest in the store, and it's a new store that just opened up right down the road from us. It's a store that we love called Grocery Outlet. And it's kind of funny because we've gotten to know pretty much everybody that works there, to the extent that now when we walk in, we'll hear people from a distance say, "It's the Baileys, it's the Baileys." And it's kind of cool to experience that. But the reason it happened, and the reason is just simply because I think that when we go into the store, yeah, we're there to get some items, but taking a moment just to say, "How are you doing?" And I can see you're smiling behind that mask because I can see it in your eyes. And man, I'm sorry that you're having some hardships that because of people that are getting upset because certain items are not available. When we go in with the intent to make a difference, it makes a difference. And it can be as simple as this: "Hey Faye, happy birthday." Now, it's Faye's birthday, but taking a moment, Tracy, writing a letter to us. It's something that you do that you want to be inspired to do, but then you intentionally do it to be an inspiration to someone else. So I want to think about a couple of things. We know the story about Daniel in the lion's den. We know that he was tricked and thrown into that place. But one of the things that we need to remember that is significant to the story is that when we talk about Daniel in the lion's den, we need to stop at the introduction with the first two words. Daniel in. It didn't say God kept him out of the lion's den. God didn't keep him from being thrown in because of evil men. Daniel was in the lion's den. But it was in the lion's den that God shut the mouths of the lions. Now, maybe it would have been cool to hear, Daniel escapes lion's den. Daniel raptured out of the lion's den. Daniel threw the other guys in while he was trying to wrestle with them on the way to the lion's den. The reality is the miracle took place in the lion's den, and God shut the mouths of lions. I was also thinking about Paul. Paul was beaten. Paul was imprisoned. And so there's a lot of things that we look at in our life and we kind of get upset because we're in it, or we feel like we're being thrown under. And we need to remember that some of the greatest miracles happen when we're in the situations that we're honestly praying that we don't want to be in. But sometimes God uses those situations to really make a difference, not only in us, but then in allowing us to help others who also go through things. So I want to go back to that verse in Hebrews. Don't throw away this confident trust in the Lord. Remember the great reward that it brings to you. And so then I was kind of wrapping some things up, I was thinking about, kind of where we were at before we were kind of put in this lockdown situation and what we were doing as a church and what we had memorized. And so I know you guys will all remember this, Philippians 4:6. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. TJ and Amber, you're probably quoting this with me. Tell God what you need. Thank Him for all He's done. Then you will experience God's peace. Then you will experience God's peace. But I was thinking about it's interesting, and the reason I'm bringing this back up is because Paul is writing to the church in Philippi, and he's saying when you do these things, this is how you get God's peace. But then, interestingly enough, in the same chapter, a few verses down, he tells us another way that we can experience God's peace. And this one kind of just really hit me this week because it really challenged me about what I need to do in my life. And so I'm just going to put it here. It's in Philippians 4:9. I'm actually reading from the New Good News translation just because I really liked the way it said this. And so this is Paul speaking again to the church in Philippi. And he says, put into practice what you learned and received from me, both from my words and from my actions. And then he goes on to say, and the God who gives us peace will be with you. When I read that this week, I thought, dude, I get it when you're telling people about finding peace because you're focusing on God. But when he's talking in this portion of Philippians, and again, it's just a few verses later, he's literally saying, here's another way to experience peace. Do what I told you to do the way I lived in front of you by my actions. And if you practice what you learned and received from me, you'll also experience God's peace. I thought, man, that's kind of a arrogant, cocky statement. It just seemed really bold to me. But then I thought about it. Is our life, and I'm not talking about John and what I'm saying to you, or Leah and what she's saying to you. Yeah, we want us all to learn from this, but this is a mutual exchange of what we're learning together. But I guess where I'm at with this is, am I so confident in what I'm doing? Am I so confident in who I am that literally people around me experience peace? And that's the question that we should be asking ourselves. You should be asking you. When you're walking into the marketplace, or when you're going about, maybe you're taking a walk in the park, and again, we're doing the social distancing thing or whatever we're doing, but do people see in you that because you're putting into practice the things that we're talking about together, about building up confidence and trusting one another and trusting God and having the right perspective, and talking about trying not to be reactionary to the things that we see, but to embrace things cautiously and carefully and with wisdom, that literally when people see you, do they get peace? Do they feel that peace? I think that's a huge challenge for us to undertake. So here's just an example. Leah used a couple examples, and so I'm going to use one real simple thing. In my life, there are things that have caused me to look back to know that I can trust God. And they're little things that I carry around with me. I'm kind of like my grandpa. My grandpa used to carry newspaper clippings in articles that he had in his wallet, and he kept things in his pocket, and used to empty out his pockets on the table, and then he'd tell me, okay, empty out your pockets, John, and let's see what you have there. And so just over time, there have just been some things that I've done, and they're kind of quirky, and I'm going to wrap up with this. So this is a number. It says your number is 62, and it's something that I carry around often in my pocket. It's kind of weird. I have different ones. They're from when I go to one of my favorite meat markets and stand in line. And it says your number 62. When called, it's your turn for service. Now, I've gone into this place that I'm speaking of, and I've pulled, a number 62, and then you look up on the reader board and they're on 15. And then you're like, I'm 62. And some of us, it may feel like in our life that our number hasn't been called yet. And I'm not talking about, when the roll is called up yonder, time to go type of a thing. I'm just talking about things in life where it just feels like you're still waiting. Well, you want to know why I stick around for my number? Because there is some really good prosciutto. There's some wonderful capicola. They make some of the best homemade sausages. It's one of these wonderful Italian meat markets where it's worth the wait. Now, conversely, some of us pull a number in life, and yet we're waiting, but we need to take a second to look what's behind the counter, because some of us are waiting for nothing. And you know what? If it's not worth waiting for, throw the number away. It's only worth this number if what behind the waiting is of value. Here's another one. Now, how does that relate to trust? Well, I've learned to trust that because God has something worth waiting for, I'm going to stick around and see what His plan is. Here's another one. This is just a token. It's a little gold token. And this little gold token was from an experience that I did not want to do. It was my son's graduation trip. My son decided that he really wanted to go see New York City. And I had the attitude that my grandfather had. I never lost nothing there. What do I want to go there for? And that was just, I don't know why. I just really didn't have an interest in New York. Man, did my perspective change when I got to New York. This is a reminder. This is actually from attending service at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. We got to spend a service on a Sunday there. And listening to what was in the liturgy, listening to what the minister was saying, I was challenged. And one of the things that he talked about that day, I still remember, one of the biggest cities on the planet, and he said one of the greatest values that we can offer people is to just remind ourselves we're all people. We're all the same. Yeah, we may have different bank accounts, but we're all the same. We're all looking for happiness. We're all looking for an opportunity to be with family. I carry this around because I'm often reminded that sometimes the things that you least expect can be some of the most valuable things later in your life, to be able to look back and say, we did that together as a family. And I was reminded that day how important people are. This is one of my favorites. I don't get these anymore. It's a little tiny rock. This is known to me as a kiss me rock. I have a number of these, and they're all given to me by my little girl. We would go on walks, and Jessica would walk up to me, and she would have found a little rock, and she would hand it to me and give me a kiss. I have a small drawer full of these little kiss me rocks. That's a chapter in my life that is changed now that Jessica is married happily to some crazy guy named Gus. Tokens. I call these tokens of trust. Reminders that I didn't always see things exactly as maybe I would have thought I would have or could have. But looking back, I see how good waiting confidently and trusting God, the reward that it is to know that He's really on the throne. I hope you're challenged today. I hope that we understand that we're all in this together, and we are going to get through this to a new world that is ours for the taking as we embrace it with open arms. So I want to encourage you today, put a smile on, do something like Leah said that's new, taste something new, have a new conversation, write a letter, do something. Guys, again, I want to say thank you for all your attention and your time. Have a great day.